In this video, I am going to briefly show you how to create a cover sheet for a Dibble standard job in AutoCAD. So the first thing we're going to do here over in AutoCAD is I'm going to press Control-N to open up a new file, or start a new file, and we navigate to the the current Autodesk version, secure templates folder. And in this case, we have a lot of clients that we already have templates started for. If we don't have the client that you're working with, then you can always work with the CAD committee to get that client represented in this folder. In this specific instance, we're going to have Queen Creek as the client, so I'm going to go ahead and go into the Queen Creek folder and select the cover DWT. Now here, most everything, all the general information should be there and should be in pretty good shape that you could just fill in your project title, project description, all this stuff, and not really have to worry about a whole lot. So if you want to stop here and then just fill in your specific information for the job, then that's fine. You don't have to do a whole lot of the formatting things that I'm going to show you, but I'm going to go through a little bit of the things that I usually clean up a tiny bit when formatting these cover sheets. So let's start over here. So if I select all these text elements and I go over to the properties window and look at the X position of these, which is the horizontal positioning of these elements, then I realize that they vary, which means that all these text blocks, when they were placed, were eyeballed. So they look like they're in a pretty good spot and they're very close to being the same as all the rest of them, but let's just take a look at this first one, this mare one. And it's at, the X position is 30.0887. It's pretty close to 30. Let's just go ahead and pop all these over to position X, and we'll just key in 30 for all of those, and that shifts all of them so that now that they are in a line and they have an X position of 30. So the sheet and description text boxes here are not in line with those other ones. So we're just going to make these at reasonable positions as well, because I bet the X positions are just odd numbers. So this is pretty close to 28.5. Let's just go ahead and make that 28.5. And since the X position for here was 30 as we made it, and this is 28.5, that's a 1.5 inch difference. Let's go ahead and, oh, actually this is line, so never mind. What I was going to do is not going to work. I was just going to set it, if it was center aligned, to make it 1.5 inches from the drawing, but we're just going to have to take a little guess to make it clean and look right. So we want to be, maybe, let's see what this distance is. From that S to the T here is somewhere in the neighborhood of 0.3 inches. So we want this D to be about 0.3 inches outside of that X, which would be let's actually figure it out this way. 31.2-ish. So let's go ahead and key in 31.2 for this description. And there we go. Now we've got a pretty evenly spaced group of text here. All of these are going to be at random intervals, probably vertically. I can bet that this Gail Barney here is not the same distance from the underlined mayor text as the Craig Barnes is from the underlined vice mayor text, but I'm not going to get into too much detail about worrying about that. I'm more concerned about the horizontal alignment for these elements, just because that's more obviously noticeable. So a couple other things I would clean up with a sheet like this is that the same thing for these text elements, they're going to be off in the X position. So right here, I'm looking at the properties window. We see that the X position for those all vary. It's pretty close to 21, so let's just throw all of it at 21. And I'll call that good. Again, I'm not going to change the Y position for all of these. I will just do the X position. And the other big thing that I want to change on this is that in the benchmark text here, The underline is actually part of the text, which you don't generally want to use the text editor to underline text in AutoCAD, but in instances like this, it is actually fine and acceptable to do that. So this location map underline is actually a line, and it doesn't match any of the other things. So sheet index here, council, vice mayor, mayor, that's all underlined through the text editor, not a line, a 2D line in AutoCAD. So let's go ahead and actually underline location map. And I'm just pressing Control U to underline. You could also underline through the formatting window up here in the ribbon, however your AutoCAD is set up. So there we go. Now that matches. Horizontally, these are going to be off from each other as well, I can assume. Oh, actually, no, they're not. They're both at position X 19.5564, which let's just make that 19.5. That looks better. And all of these text elements are probably going to be off as well. You can go through ahead and straighten things out a little bit if you want. Put things at more repeatable locations in the X and Y directions. But in general, that's what I do to clean up a cover sheet a little bit. So there you go. That's how to create a cover sheet and how to edit it to make it look a little cleaner.